Carol's actions nearly kill Zosia once more in the shockingly depressing conclusion of Pluribus' 4th episode. This leads to a huge cliffhanger at the end of the episode, leaving Zosia's future uncertain. Pluribus disclosed in episode 3 that a man from Paraguay was purposefully avoiding the afflicted and was thus immune to the illness. When Carol phoned the man, he would not speak to her, much to her dismay. The opening scene of Pluribus' 4th episode depicts the same man going to tremendous measures to stay away from the infected. He refuses to embrace the new normal, just like Carol, as the opening scene makes clear, which could make him an ally in the future. Carol attempts to coerce Zosia into informing her how to stop the epidemic as the episode of the Apple TV science fiction series goes on. Sadly, things don't proceed as planned. In the conclusion of Pluribus episode 4, is Zosia dead? In order to get Zosia to confess the truth about how she can stop the pandemic, Carol removes her from the hospital and even gives her an anesthetic. But the other infected people round them as she begins questioning her. Carol binds herself to Zosia to prevent them from taking her away, while the other infected keeps saying, "Please, Carol." Zosia appears to be about to disclose the truth, but she quickly passes out. This causes Zosia to go into cardiac arrest, and Carol unintentionally injures her once more. Zosia's destiny is not revealed in the episode. However, it is unlikely that she will perish. It is improbable that Zosia would be abruptly removed from the narrative, as she has already established herself as one of Pluribus' primary characters. However, Carol would become much more cautious about addressing the sick people in the future if she were to die or suffer serious injuries, like the man from Paraguay. She could even give up on the concept of a treatment entirely and withdraw. An explanation of Carol's strategy to get Zosia to tell the truth. Carol enumerates every characteristic shared by those who are afflicted. She verifies their honesty by questioning one person about her book after realizing that they are also capable of being brutally honest. After verifying this characteristic, she visits the hospital pharmacy and pilfers thiopental sodium in the hopes that the anesthetic will function as a truth serum. After testing it on herself, she discovers that it not only causes amnesia, but also interferes with logical thought. She injects Zosia with the medicine in the hopes that its effects would help her coerce the truth out of her. Carol's strategy nearly succeeds, but the hive mind objects and keeps Zosia from disclosing the way to stop the epidemic. Zosia experiences heart arrest as a result of Carol's scheme failing. Why Zosia doesn't explain how to stop the pandemic. The infected people only possess a few predetermined sets of features, in contrast to immune humans like Carol. They are all incredibly amiable, have a never-ending supply of accurate knowledge, are blissfully content, and will stop at nothing to win Carol over. However, Zosia declines to respond to Carol's question on how the epidemic may be stopped. This indicates that although they are pre-programmed to be extremely amiable, they are also prohibited from discussing the reversal of the infection. In other words, the hive mind's obedience is superseded by the virus's own survival protocol/defensive command. Zosia also flung the grenade out of Carol's grasp, since this defense mechanism is activated when something threatens its continuous existence. Will Carol get assistance from the immune Paraguay man? When Carol contacts him for the 3rd time and mistreats him, Manusos Oviedo, the immune guy from Paraguay, writes down her name. He takes this action after observing that Carol is still capable of being impolite and cruel, in contrast to the infected. The man could eventually leave his house and go in search of Carol with just her name as his clue. Carol was more resilient than the majority of other immunological people. They all appeared content with the way the virus had altered the world. But Oviedo is quite similar to Carol. Because of this, it is probable that he will become her sole ally in the future. How Carol's past explains her true hatred of the infected. Carol remembers being taken to Camp Freedom Falls for rehabilitation when she was much younger during her chat with Zosia in the hospital. Her experience at the camp was unpleasant, since the therapists were some of the worst individuals she had ever encountered, as she discloses in the 4th episode of the original Apple TV series. Despite their outward smiles and kindness, The therapist did some pretty cruel things to her, which is why the infected individuals keep reminding her of them. It would be intriguing to observe how Pluribus's next plot arcs relate to this discovery regarding Carol's history.